Hey everyone! The big question now is, did Indian soldiers really flee in front of the Pakistani army? That's the first question. The second question, did Pakistan really shoot down Indian fighter jets? Because here's the thing, India claims it only lost 1 or 2 jets, but Pakistan is saying they brought down 6. Yes, 6 Indian fighter jets. That's what Pakistan is reporting. India, on the other hand, officially acknowledges only 1 or 2, without disclosing the exact type of aircraft that were downed, which is a very important detail. Now, why am I saying there's reason to doubt all this? Because when you look at the images posted on social media, there's a lot of skepticism. You'll find people presenting reports saying the photos are fake or not genuine. But the truth is, you need to watch this video. It's a military-level analytical video because Israeli media has jumped into the conversation too. For example, an Israeli site called Taimon said something alarming. What starts in Israel must end in India. That's a serious statement. Another major source, Foreign Policy, arguably the most important analytical platform in the world, published a very dangerous article. They revealed exactly what India is planning to do in Pakistan. This video is crucial. It contains images, documents, articles and intelligence footage coming from Western media. There's information being revealed for the first time about the downing of Indian fighter jets. But before I dive into all that, let me tell you about a strong and respected sponsor, our new channel, Pharaoh Code, where we uncover the secrets of the pharaohs, hidden mysteries and the deep history of ancient Egyptian civilization. You'll also find fascinating topics from the wonders and oddities of the world, from the dawn of history to the present day. We're starting with a full series on the pyramids. Have you ever wondered how the pyramids were built, or why they seem to align with Orion's belt? At Pharaoh Code, we take an incredible journey through time to decode the civilization that amazed the world. Weekly videos packed with well-documented information, mysterious theories, and unbelievable truths. Subscribe now to Pharaoh Code on YouTube and begin your journey into the great past. Don't miss a single episode of this long and exciting series. Subscribe now. You'll find the channel link in the video description and also pinned in the top comment. Now let's get straight into today's story. What we have today is likely something you've never heard before. Something different about the Indian army fleeing. Honestly, it's a very strange situation. Why? Because from yesterday until now, Pakistan has claimed it shot down 6 Indian aircraft. If that's true, it's a disaster. Why? Because that's one of the Indian Army's worst fears. Remember, the last major incident between India and Pakistan was in 2019, when Pakistan captured an Indian pilot. It was a huge scandal. Pakistan proudly broadcasted the footage. Locals even beat the pilot up before he was treated well and later returned to India after a deal was made. So now, India fully understands that Pakistan has strong air defences, and it does not want a repeat of that incident. That's why, when India attacked Pakistan recently, it didn't just use missiles. Here's where it gets serious. According to the New York Times, Indian fighter jets were actually used to bomb Pakistani targets. That's right. India didn't just launch missiles and call it a day. They sent their top fighter jets for a powerful airstrike. Now here's the strange part. The New York Times says Pakistani forces saw the jets taking off. They waited until the jets launched their missiles and then they shot them down. And not just anywhere. They were shot down inside Indian airspace. The Indian jets didn't even cross into Pakistani territory, probably to avoid Pakistan's powerful air defences. Let that sink in. Pakistani air defences had the Indian jets in sight before they fired and still managed to shoot them down. Another question, was a Rafale jet actually brought down? Yes, it's been confirmed that a Rafale fighter jet was downed. Both Pakistani and Indian sources showed images of the wreckage. Here's a new detail. The Rafale was shot down with its own weapons still on board. It was carrying a Massacre missile, a product of European engineering pride. But the Rafale didn't even get to fire it. It went down with the missile still attached. Did Pakistan only down a Rafale? No. They also brought down a Su-30, a flagship of Russian aviation, and a MiG-29, another top-tier Russian fighter currently being used by Russia in the Ukraine war. And if you pay attention, you'll notice India used its top weapons in this operation. They didn't even use their Tejas jets. They went in with their best gear, but despite that, Pakistan downed 5 Indian fighters and also an Israeli-made drone. Yes, India bought this drone from Israel to monitor Pakistani airspace. It's called the Heron. So, to sum up, based on the available images, Pakistan downed these aircraft inside Indian airspace, not over Pakistan. The Indian jets didn't even make it across the border. The moment they launched their missiles, Pakistan's defences took them out. So now the question is, what exactly did they use to bring them down? So did Pakistan shoot down the Indian fighter jets using air defence missiles or air-to-air missiles? Pay close attention because this is a very serious matter. The answer is both. Yes, both. Pakistan used Chinese air defence missiles to bring down the Indian jets, and at the same time Pakistani fighter jets took off, though the type wasn't confirmed. No one said if they were J-10C or JF-17 Thunder, but it was confirmed that a PL-15 missile was launched. The PL-15 is a long-range Chinese missile with a range of 300 kilometers. It was launched from a Pakistani fighter jet, and it successfully shot down Indian jets. This has been officially confirmed. Now, why am I telling you this? Because the images going around on social media are being reported as fake. Keep in mind, the war isn't just military. It's also playing out on social media. Indians and Pakistanis are extremely skilled on social media. So you need to know that Indian hackers are removing images of the wreckage of their fighter jets from all platforms. Just look at the reports. Anytime a photo comes out showing wreckage from an Indian jet, you'll see a huge number of reports trying to take those images down. Any channel that talks about Indian aircraft wreckage gets flooded with reports trying to get the content removed. Understand what I'm saying? This war is also happening online. Now, let's talk about the Rafale fighter jet. Was it really shot down? Yes. And how do we know? Not just from the wreckage. A French intelligence source told CNN that a Rafale jet was indeed shot down by Pakistan. And you need to understand, once CNN published that report, forget the images. The moment the CNN report came out, Dassault Aviation, the French company that makes the Rafale, saw its stock drop by 1 to 2% on the stock market, just from that report. What's even more surprising is that the stock prices of the Chinese military companies that make the PL-15 missile jumped by 18 to 20%. So, you're looking at a very unusual kind of war. And on social media, there's been panic. Why the panic? People are saying, oh no, the Rafale jets we bought from France are just hype. These Rafales that we spent a fortune on are falling this easily. Even President Macron came to Egypt and offered more Rafales, and all of that turned out to be a joke. Let me break this down simply. If you're afraid, you should know this. Israel is also afraid 24/7. Why? Because the Indian fighter jets that were shot down were armed with European and Israeli missiles. Also, Indian-made systems include Israeli components. Another thing you should know, Pakistan shot down a Heron Drone, which is a pride of Israeli manufacturing. Yes, Pakistan took it down, and what most people are missing is this. The Indian jets that were shot down were hit from a distance, either by air defence systems used by Pakistan, which are originally Chinese, or by air-to-air missiles. This means that the Chinese air defence systems used by Pakistan really impressed the Indians. China is supporting Pakistan in an unbelievable way. And here's another thing. China provided extensive training to Pakistani pilots. That's why they were able to launch PL-15 missiles from Pakistani airspace and hit Indian jets inside Indian airspace. That's a huge shift in power. So, what's the problem with something like this? The problem is that neither Pakistan nor China lied to anyone. Russia didn't lie when it gave you the MiG-29. France didn't lie when it gave you the Rafale. Why? because neither India nor Pakistan possesses fifth-generation fighter jets. They only have fourth-generation jets. The Rafale doesn't have stealth technology. It's a 4.5-generation jet. It's not invisible to radar. It shows up clearly. This means the war is even. The Chinese radars that Pakistan owns can clearly detect all Indian jets, and they're striking them successfully. We don't have fifth-generation jets, and that's why I strongly support the report from Tactical Report, stating that Egypt has begun talks with China to acquire the J-20 fighter jet. I fully support that move. You simply can't judge how good your weapons are unless you actually go into a combat scenario. And this was a golden opportunity. We've just seen how India and Pakistan fought and what weapons performed better. I believe Egypt's interest in acquiring the PL-15 air-to-air missiles is a very smart move. This missile is a long-range Chinese air-to-air missile currently used by the Pakistani Air Force. Recent reports confirm that Pakistan has obtained about 100 PL-15 missiles, not the weak export version, but advanced versions directly from China's own Air Force stockpile. Now let me explain why this is important. When Chinese-made jets were able to shoot down Indian fighters armed with Massacre missiles, which are European-made, and neither the Indian jets nor Indian air defense systems could even detect the Pakistani aircraft, and Pakistan didn't lose a single air defense battery, that's a scandal. This alone is enough to make anyone feel confident about the Chinese Air Force. And remember, Pakistan shot down some of the most advanced European and Russian jets. Another important point, you have to factor in the quality of Indian pilots. Honestly, India is a joke, and I'll give you an example. In the last video, I told you that Indian pilots couldn't even land their Rafale jets properly. And that's why the Indian Air Force chief was removed from his position. India is full of ridiculous examples. Did you know that in 2017, India launched its first nuclear submarine? They held a massive celebration. That submarine cost $3 billion. You know what happened? During the launch ceremony, the submarine sank. Was it a manufacturing defect? No. The sub was 100% functional, a true pride of Indian engineering. So why did it sink? Because the engineer or soldier forgot to close the hatch before launch. The submarine sank, just like that. Disaster. Look, India might have some of the world's most impressive weapons, but once you hear they're Indian, you know the rest. It's like a Bollywood movie. You expect drama, and that's exactly what you get. It's a joke, and that's the point. Meanwhile, China is clapping. It's very important to note that India has requested F-35 fighter jets from the United States. This represents a major shift. You should know that as soon as Donald Trump took office as president, he reportedly told them, according to an article in Axios, that he had absolutely no problem with selling India F-35 jets. In fact, he was enthusiastic about it. This marks a turning point because it means fifth-generation fighter jets are now entering the conflict. That, in turn, would require China to upgrade Pakistan's air defense systems. Another very important development, when the skirmishes between India and Pakistan broke out on April 22nd, following a terrorist operation carried out by a group inside Indian-controlled Kashmir, China openly supported Pakistan. Even the New York Times described the India-Pakistan conflict as a proxy war between the US and China, or more broadly, between the West and China. Everyone is testing their weapons through others. China is willing to fight India down to the last Pakistani soldier, and the West is willing to fight China down to the last Indian soldier. That's the kind of geopolitical game being played. So it's essential to stay informed about what happened yesterday. All the images and reports that emerged were catastrophic for the Indian army. One of the most absurd reports claimed that some Indian soldiers fled when Pakistani forces opened fire. That suggests the Indian army was caught off guard by the Pakistani army's capabilities. And it's very clear that China played a significant role in tipping the balance of power between the two militaries. Now, let's talk about the foreign policy article, which I found extremely important. The writer suggests that India has a plan similar to what Israel has implemented in the Middle East. Let me explain in my own words, not quoting directly. Just as Time magazine once described how everything that begins in Israel ends up in India, the Indian army follows the same doctrine as the Israeli army, specifically the doctrine of fighting and eliminating Muslims. Forget about Arabs for a second. Israel fights everyone, Muslim, Christian, even Arab Jews. But Pakistan is a Muslim country with no Arabs, and India applies the same Israeli military doctrine. That's why the two countries share a very strong relationship. India's long-term plan, according to the article, is to turn Pakistan into the next Gaza. But the writer argues this is impossible. Gaza is isolated. It's a fragmented part of Palestine, split between the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Pakistan, on the other hand, is a united country and, importantly, it's backed by the US. For example, the American president didn't even describe what happened in Kashmir as a terrorist attack. When war erupted between India and Pakistan, Trump called the events disgraceful, not terrorism, and urged both sides to stop fighting as soon as possible. This tells you that Donald Trump was one of the boldest American presidents. He didn't even label the attack by Pakistani groups in Kashmir as terrorism. Instead, he called it disgraceful and wanted the fighting to end. Pakistan has strong ties with America and Europe. The West supports Pakistan in part to keep it from falling under China's influence. Even Arab countries support Pakistan. Saudi Arabia is a major backer. Why? Because if Iran ever goes nuclear, Saudi Arabia's plan B is to buy a nuclear bomb from Pakistan the very next day. That's the reality. The UAE, despite working closely with India, still maintains relations with Pakistan. Qatar, Kuwait, all the Gulf states have ties with Pakistan. Even Egypt has strong relations with Pakistan, possibly stronger than those with India. So Pakistan is not isolated, and it would be extremely difficult for anyone to allow India to turn it into another Gaza. The article argues that India wants to starve Pakistan, cut off water, food and trade, and turn it into a besieged, isolated state like Gaza. This is a theory I find somewhat plausible. India seems to be learning everything from Israel, even in defense manufacturing, but in the end it's very difficult to completely isolate or blockade Pakistan. What India will likely try to do instead is demonize Pakistan, portray it as a terrorist state. But even the US still collaborates with Pakistan. Don't forget, Pakistan helped the US military during its mission in Afghanistan, so isolating Pakistan isn't easy. Also, the US doesn't want Pakistan to openly align with China. On the surface, the US keeps communication lines open with Pakistan. Lastly, there's a critical point I want to emphasize. Chinese weapons have now surpassed European defense technology, especially in defensive capabilities. We're not just talking about stealth tech in fifth-generation aircraft. Indian jets were detected at airfields even while launching missiles and then were shot down. That indicates a massive advancement in Chinese defense manufacturing. If the Egyptian army had been considering buying PL-15 missiles from China, it should now be even more committed to acquiring Chinese weapons. Don't forget, we already have air defense systems deployed on our borders, and even Israel has expressed concern about Egyptian air defense capabilities, which now rival the Chinese S-400 systems. Chinese weapons are no longer seen as unreliable or subpar. They've become highly effective. After this war, China's influence in the global arms market will increase significantly.